My observations have shown me that the average man, when confronted with the market's raw power, succumbs to the very human failings he denies in himself. He hopes when he should fear, and fears when he should be patient. He chases quick riches, fueled by greed, and holds on to losing positions, paralyzed by hope. This is the brutal truth of the 99%. They are their own worst enemies, not the market. The market is merely the stage where their weaknesses are exposed. I learned this not by reading books, but by losing fortunes and then making them back, each time with a deeper, more painful understanding. My journey from a bucket shop boy to the lone wolf of Wall Street was paved with relentless self-scrutiny. I too once chased the illusion of easy money. I too desired the swift victory, the dream of vast wealth without the arduous grind of self-conquest. My early days were a testament to this folly. I would see a stock move, feel the surge of excitement, and jump in, driven by the illusion of immediate profit. The market, in its cold indifference, would swiftly correct my hubris. My greatest fears were born of my own unchecked greed, a desperate need for validation. This emotional attachment to an outcome, this need to be right, is the poison that infects the 99%. They marry their positions. They fall in love with their predictions. They cannot cut a loss because it feels like admitting defeat, a blow to their fragile ego. This is the psychological battle you face. This is the internal war waged between your rational mind and your impulsive desires. I know your frustrations. I felt them acutely. The market offers a mirage of easy money, feeding the very human weakness for instant gratification. You see others succeed. You hear tales of overnight fortunes, and the pressure mounts. You yearn for that financial freedom, for the ability to provide, to escape the daily grind. These aspirations are powerful, seductive, but they become chains when they override discipline. Waiting is work. This is a truth few comprehend. The impulse to act, to constantly be in the market, is a trap. The greatest profits are often made in patience, in sitting idle, observing, waiting for the unmistakable signal. The market pays you to wait. It pays you to be bored. It pays you to do nothing until the perfect opportunity presents itself, clear and undeniable. Many cannot bear this stillness. They crave action, movement, the illusion of control. They trade out of desperation or boredom, not out of conviction. Position size is survival. This is not merely a rule. It is a fundamental law of existence in the market. Over-leveraging, taking on too much risk in a single trade, is an act of self-destruction. It amplifies your emotions, turning minor fluctuations into existential threats. It robs you of your judgment, forcing you to react to noise rather than signal. I learned this through the crushing weight of too large positions, where every tick against me felt like a personal assault. It blurred my vision, distorted my logic, and ultimately led to my downfall. To survive, you must manage your risk so that no single trade can ever cripple you. Your capital is your army. Conserve it. Deploy it strategically. Never commit your entire force to a single skirmish. The market is not a lottery. It is a harsh, unforgiving teacher. It demands respect, humility, and an iron will. The 99% approach it as a game of chance, hoping for luck, praying for a miracle. They refuse to study, refuse to adapt, refuse to confront their own psychological shortcomings. They seek external solutions to internal problems. They blame the market, the news, the system, never themselves. This denial is their ultimate undoing. I stripped away every vestige of emotion from my trading. My decisions were not born of intuition or popular opinion, but from the cold, hard logic of price and volume. I studied the tape as a scientist studies a specimen, looking for patterns, for the line of least resistance, for the precise moment when the market revealed its true intent. The 99% gamble, I speculate. There is a profound difference. Gambling is based on hope and chance. Speculation, true speculation, is based on observation, calculation, and a disciplined plan. I never argued with the tape. The market is always right, always. My job was not to predict, but to observe and react. When my analysis indicated a shift, I acted swiftly and without hesitation. My losses were cut short, brutally, because a small loss today prevents a catastrophic loss tomorrow. My profits, however, I let run. This requires patience that borders on the inhuman, a willingness to sit through minor corrections, trusting my initial read on the major movement. The market does not forgive. It does not forget. Every mistake is a lesson, etched in red ink. The 99% learn nothing from these etchings. They repeat their follies, driven by the same inherent weaknesses. They fail to understand that every transaction is a test of character. They seek to conquer the market, when they should seek to conquer themselves. I learned this. I faced my own character flaws, brutalized by the market's efficiency. My success was not born of superior intellect, but of superior discipline. Discipline is the bedrock. It is the invisible shield against the market's temptations. It is the unwavering hand that cuts a loss and lets a profit run. I learned to wait. This waiting is not idleness. It is active observation. It is the work of a hunter, tracking his prey, understanding its habits, anticipating its moves. The 99% cannot wait. They mistake activity for progress. They must be in motion, constantly buying, constantly selling, convinced that every tick represents an opportunity they might miss. This frantic energy is born of fear of missing out, fear of being wrong, fear of not making enough. This constant need for action drains their capital and their resolve. It blinds them to the larger movements. It prevents them from seeing the forest for the trees. The tape reveals the truth. The market speaks in price and volume. It does not whisper secrets to those who chase rumors or listen to the crowd. The 99% are deaf to its true voice. They are swayed by opinions, by analysts, by the financial press, by the chatter of the bucket shop. They trade on hope, on tips, on the desperate desire for a quick fortune. I never argued with the tape. The tape is the ultimate authority. It presents facts, stripped of emotion, devoid of bias. My job was to read these facts, to understand the market's current intent, and to align myself with the line of least resistance. The line of least resistance is the market's path of least effort. It is the major trend. To trade against it is to invite ruin. To trade with it is to find the current that carries you. The 99% constantly fight this current. They pick tops and bottoms, convinced they can outsmart the collective wisdom of millions. They average down on losing positions, pouring good money after bad, believing that the market must eventually turn in their favor. The market does not care what you believe. It cares only about supply and demand. It cares only about the path it will inevitably take. Your personal conviction is irrelevant. Your hope is a liability. I learned to ignore the noise. The market is a symphony of distractions, a cacophony of opinions designed to confuse and mislead. Every day brings a new story, a new reason to buy or sell, a new fear to exploit, a new greed to ignite. The 99% are consumed by this noise. They react to headlines, to quarterly reports, to political pronouncements, believing these are the drivers of price. These are merely reflections, often lagging. The true driver is the underlying current, the accumulation or distribution that occurs beneath the surface. To see this, one must cultivate stillness, a detachment from the daily drama. My greatest victories came from patience, weeks, sometimes months, of waiting for the perfect setup. Not a good setup, but a perfect one. A setup where the risk was clearly defined and the potential reward was substantial. The 99% cannot afford this luxury. Their capital is too small, their emotional reserves too thin, their desire for immediate gratification too strong. They are always in a hurry. The market has no respect for haste. It rewards deliberation. It rewards foresight. It rewards those who understand that opportunity. True opportunity is rare. This requires a profound self-awareness, a brutal honesty about your own limitations, your own biases, your own emotional triggers. The 99% lack this. They live in denial. They blame external factors for their failures. They refuse to look inward, to confront the uncomfortable truths about their own psychology. They believe they are rational, objective players, when in fact they are slaves to their hopes and fears. I understood that my biggest enemy was never the market, but Livermore himself. My own impulse to act, my own desire to be right, my own capacity for greed and fear. The market is a mirror. It reflects your character, your discipline, your emotional control. The 99% look into this mirror and see what they wish to see, not what truly is. They project their hopes onto the charts, their fears onto the fluctuations. They see patterns that do not exist, chasing ghosts born of their own minds. This is why they lose. This is the brutal truth. They are unprepared for the psychological warfare the market wages. They come armed with opinions, when they should come armed with an iron will and an unshakable adherence to principle. My principles were forged in the fire of devastating losses. Each loss was a painful tuition payment. Each failure was a lesson in self-mastery. I did not repeat the same mistakes. I analyzed them, dissected them, understood their root causes, and then eliminated them from my trading arsenal. The 99% repeat their errors endlessly, hoping for a different outcome. This is the definition of madness. They fail to understand that the market is a zero-sum game. For every winner, there must be a loser. And the losers are those who cannot adapt, who cannot learn, who cannot control their own minds. I traded not with my heart, but with my head. My emotions were a dangerous luxury I could not afford. The market demands cold, hard logic. It demands a systematic approach. It demands a plan, rigorously followed, without deviation. The 99% trade with their gut, their intuition, their feeling. These are unreliable guides in a domain that punishes irrationality with extreme prejudice. Your feelings are your enemy in this arena. They whisper promises of easy wealth, then scream in panic as your capital evaporates. This relentless focus on self-mastery is what separates the 1% from the 99%. It is not about secret formulas or insider information. It is about understanding human nature, and then transcending it within yourself. It is about recognizing that the greatest battle is internal. It is about the courage to face your own flaws and systematically eliminate them. The market is merely the final exam. The market is merely the final exam. Most fail because they are unprepared for the true nature of the test. They believe it is a test of intellect, of foresight, of prediction. It is none of these. It is a test of character, a test of emotional fortitude, a test of discipline against the most primal human urges. I faced this test repeatedly, and I failed spectacularly many times. Each failure was a brutal, unforgiving lesson, etched not just in red ink, but in the very fiber of my being. I saw how my own mind betrayed me. I observed the pattern of my self-destruction, the hope that blinded me to reality, the fear that paralyzed me from acting decisively, the greed that pushed me into positions too large, too soon. These were not external forces, they were internal demons. I once believed that understanding the market meant understanding economics or company fundamentals. That was a fool's errand. The market is not driven by logic alone. It is driven by human emotion, magnified 1,000-fold. The mass psychology, the herd. I saw the patterns of boom and bust, not as random events, but as the predictable oscillations of hope and fear, greed and panic. The 99% are swept away by these tides. They become part of the herd, their individual judgment dissolving into the collective madness. They buy at the top, fueled by euphoria, and sell at the bottom, driven by despair. They become the fuel for the informed few. My epiphany was not a sudden flash, but a slow, agonizing realization. It was forged in the crucible of ruin. I lost everything, not once, but several times. Each time, I was forced to confront the wreckage of my own making. It was not the market that defeated me. It was Livermore. It was my own undisciplined mind. My own refusal to accept the brutal facts the tape presented. My own desire for a different outcome than what the price was clearly showing. The market does not care about your desires. It does not care about your feelings about a stock. It simply is. It moves. And your job is to move with it, or be crushed beneath its relentless advance. This was the turning point. The realization that I had to become an observer, not a participant in the emotional drama. I had to detach, to become a machine of observation and execution. My capital was not just money. It was my instrument of survival, my tool for understanding the market's deeper currents. I had to protect it with my life, for without it, I could not learn, I could not adapt, I could not profit. The 99% treat their capital as a lottery ticket, a disposable asset to be risked on a whim. They fail to grasp that capital preservation is the first, second, and third rule of speculation. Without it, the game is over before it truly begins. I stopped trying to predict. Prediction is the ultimate arrogance. It assumes you know more than the collective intelligence of millions of participants. It assumes you can bend the market to your will. This is a delusion. The market cannot be predicted. It can only be observed. Its intent can be discerned through the language of price and volume. My focus shifted entirely. No longer was I searching for what will happen next. I was searching for what is happening now, and what is the market's path of least resistance. This required a stillness of mind, an absence of ego. It required patience, not just for the perfect setup, but for the market to reveal its hand. The 99% are always impatient. They leap before they look. They act on rumors, on tips, on the urgent feeling that they must do something. This constant activity is their undoing. It leads to overtrading, to commissions, eating their capital, to emotional exhaustion. They are addicted to the thrill, the dopamine hit of action, regardless of its profitability. I learned to embrace inactivity, to sit on my hands for weeks, for months if necessary, to wait for the undeniable signal, the clear confirmation that the market was moving in a decisive direction. This waiting is not idleness, it is active observation, meticulous analysis, mental preparation. It is the hardest work of all, because it requires supreme self-control. I had to kill the hope within me. Hope is a dangerous illusion in the market. It makes you hold on to losing positions, believing they will come back. It makes you ignore the clear signals of reversal. It makes you blind to reality. I learned to fear hope and to embrace the cold, hard reality of the tape. When the market showed weakness, I cut. Swiftly, brutally, without hesitation. There is no sentimentality in the market. There is only profit and loss. The 99% are held captive by sentimentality. They rationalize their losses. They invent reasons why a bad trade might turn good. They become emotionally invested, not in the truth, but in their own flawed judgment. This detachment, this willingness to accept reality, no matter how painful, is the brutal truth that separates the 1% from the 99%. It is the willingness to admit you are wrong, to cut your losses, and to move on, unburdened by ego or emotion. It is the understanding that the market is always right, always. Your opinion means nothing. Your analysis means nothing if the tape contradicts it. The market is the final arbiter. To argue with it is to argue with the tide. You will be drowned. I learned to surrender my ego to the market, to become its servant, not its master. My success was not built on genius, but on obedience. Obedience to the market's signals, obedience to my own hard-won rules, and obedience to the brutal truth of human nature. The 99% cannot obey. They are driven by their own impulses, their own hopes and fears, their own unexamined biases. They believe they are clever. They believe they can outsmart the market. They are wrong. The market is a reflection of all human knowledge, all human emotion, all human folly. You cannot outsmart it. You can only understand its patterns and align yourself with them. The great secret, if there is one, is that there is no secret. There is only relentless discipline, unwavering self-control, a commitment to facts over feelings, a willingness to lose small, to win big, and to wait for the unmistakable opportunity. It is not about being right all the time. It is about being right when it matters, and cutting your losses when you are wrong, quickly and without remorse. This requires a level of mental fortitude that most refuse to cultivate. They want the easy path, the shortcut, the magic formula. There are none. There is only the path of self-conquest, the path of facing your own weaknesses and systematically eradicating them. This is the price of becoming the 1%. This is the brutal truth. The market offers no quarter for the weak. It is an arena where character is tested, stripped bare. You either confront your internal demons, your greed, your fear, your impatience and conquer them, or you become another statistic among the 99%. The choice is yours. It always was. My choice was to face the mirror, to dissect every failure, to accept the market's brutal lessons without argument. It was to strip away every illusion, every comforting lie I told myself. The 99% refuse this introspection. They seek external fixes for internal maladies. They chase indicators, systems, and gurus, when the real enemy resides within. To become the 1%, you must wage war against your own nature, against the very human impulses that drive the masses to ruin. This is not about intelligence. It is about character, forged in the crucible of self-discipline. It is about the profound, often painful, realization that the market doesn't care about your hopes or fears, only about the cold, hard facts of price and volume. I became the 1%, not by predicting the future, but by respecting the present, by observing without emotion, acting without hesitation when the signal was clear, and cutting without remorse when the market proved me wrong. My system was simple: preserve capital, wait for undeniable trends, and then act with conviction, letting profits run and cutting losses swiftly. This required an almost inhuman patience, a willingness to be bored, to do nothing for extended periods, knowing that true opportunity is rare and must be seized with full force when it appears. The crowd cannot do this. Their minds demand constant stimulation, constant action, constant validation. The brutal truth, then, is this: the market is merely a stage. The drama, the tragedy, the occasional triumph, all play out within you. Your success or failure is a direct reflection of your mastery over yourself. It is the ultimate test of psychological fortitude. The market will expose every weakness, every insecurity, every unexamined bias. It will strip you bare. Only those who can stand naked before its truth, who can confront their own flaws and systematically eliminate them, will endure. This journey is solitary. It is unforgiving. But for those who embrace its rigor, the rewards are not merely financial. They are a profound transformation of self. And so, the path to becoming the 1% begins now. It begins with an honest look at your own trading, your own mind. If these truths resonate, if you are prepared to face this internal battle, then engage with this message. Share your own confrontations with the market's brutal honesty in the comments below. Subscribe to Livermore Mind to continue this journey of discipline and self-mastery. For those who dare to listen, the market speaks its undeniable truth.